Welcome to Snowy Valley's Council meeting of the 20th of February 2020. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay respects to elders past and present. This meeting is live streamed on Council's website to allow the community to follow debates and decisions without the need to attend the meeting in person. Members of the public attending or speaking at the meeting agree to have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded and publicly broadcast. Snowy Valley's Council does not accept liability for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that are made during the course of the meeting. Any part of the meeting that is held in closed session will not be streamed. Please ensure that all mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voice or images is permitted. In the event of emergency, please evacuate the building using the nearest exit and follow the instructions given by the wardens. Do not use the lift. Thank you, councillors. Apologies and leave of absence? Nothing? Declarations of pecuniary interest?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I have one in relation to report 10.4 as I'm the Secretary of the Racecourse Land Manager, and I should be leaving the room during that discussion.
Councillor Cross. There's no public forum. Confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 12th of December 2019. Councillor Isselman. Councillor Larter. Arising. Put the motion, all in favour? Carried. The second one is unanimously. The second one is the minutes of the meeting held 28th of January. Councillor Hand, Councillor Isselman. Rising. Councillor Hand.
I'd just like to speak on two things. One is I've been asked repeatedly why I didn't support the submission to the Boundaries Commission. I'd just like to clarify my position on that. Is I actually do support the matter going to the Boundaries Commission. I believe that will happen. Where I got lost is that no additional cost to the Snowy Valleys Council. The reason I didn't vote for that because I don't want any additional costs to any ratepayer within our present Snowy Valleys Council. And that's my big concern, that ratepayers will pay more money if a new council is made. So that's why I voted against that. I just wanted to clarify that. And the second thing was about the food organics option and implementation. I've been asked by somebody on a farm whether people on farms get organics as well, and their argument was that farmers don't need it because they've got chooks or they can recycle, things like that. And with your permission, if I could ask Heinz to clarify that. And there was a couple of issues. Oh, and the other thing is the business papers. We were going to publish those and have bits redacted. I didn't think there was any interest, but there has been, so just asking if that could happen.
Certainly, thank you, Councillor. And just by clarification, this is not a forum to justify your voting in a previous meeting.
Okay.
So you should do that elsewhere. But Executive Director.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. With the rollout of the FOGO collection service, it's intended that all customers or residents that are currently in the collection area, that currently have curbside collection, will be provided with a green waste bin. Obviously, there's if they choose not to use that, that's okay. And if they want to make other arrangements for disposal of their green waste through composting or feeding it to the chickens, that's fine, no issue. But they are included in that, they are within the collection area. The other question was about
I think
The business cases.
Oh, the business case, yeah.
Yeah, so in the previous report, the business cases were treated as confidential because they had names and commercial and confidence information in them. Very, very comfortable making them publicly available. We just need to redact that information out of those, and I suggest we do that as part of the consultation education phase of rolling out the FOGO service.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Nothing further? Put the motion, all in favour? That's unanimous as well. Takes us to governance and finance reports. Council's request to attend the waste conference. 9.1. Councillor Isselman? Moving that?
Yes, I'll move it.
And Councillor Wright? Councillor Isselman?
When's, it's the waste conference, is it? Yeah, sorry, someone else.
Yeah.
Councillor Cross?
Yes, I've asked to go to this conference because waste is our core, it's really our core business, and I think it's really important to know we've got FOGO, we've got other, we really need to know what else is available for us to become zero waste, and because we just can't keep on filling up empty volcanoes. We've got to be able to be better at recycling, and I need to know what there is on offer so that I can bring that back to council to look at what grants are available for us to go into another way of recycling.
Councillor Cross. Any other councillors? No. So the recommendation is there that we receive the report and we approve the attendance of Councillor Cross to attend the conference. Put the motion, all in favour? Against? That's unanimous as well, thank you. 9.2, Councillor request to attend the Local Government New South Wales Tourism Conference. So we received the recommendations, we received the report. Councillor Isselman? Councillor Cross, yes?
Just speaking to that.
Yeah. Councillor Smith.
Mr Mayor, at this point in time I would like to withdraw my request to attend that conference because I understand that other councillors are interested in attending that conference. I think it's important that someone from council does it.
I would like to ask why this 21% haven't even been begun yet to start. So it's not a criticism, please, it's just what are they and why not?
Yes. I'll pass over to the CEO.
Through the chair, councillors, so there's some projects that have to go through the methodology, so they might actually be in an early stage of that planning. We have to spread our workforce out, and there's certain times of the year that we can do certain things. We are bringing our project management report up to council in the workshops coming up next month, and we'll be able to report to you on the details of those particular projects.
Okay.
We have had a bit of a break over the Christmas period. We had an extraordinary meeting,
Yes.
but we didn't have our normal monthly workshop schedule around projects. So you are a little bit out of date because of that and the fires that we've been having, but we promise you to have a project update in the March workshop schedule.
Excellent. That means haven't been forgotten, that's the main thing.
Can I also add, while I have the floor, thank you, that I'm exceptionally pleased with the progress that we've made on this. The staff have worked really hard to make sure that we have good progress on our operational plan items, and we've seen a significant change on that front. Also just noting that because of the fires and other matters, we do actually have to review what we've got scheduled for this first 6 months of the year, and just what realistically we can do now that we've got the whole group of activities around recovery. And as all the councillors are involved in a number of our recovery committees and subcommittees, you can see how much work that's actually taking in staff time as well. So we will.
I would like to add, 12 months ago I was pretty critical of where the pie charts were. Now I'm delighted how well we are compared to last year.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wright.
Can I just make a point in regard to some of these funding arrangements for some of these projects, specifically the funding around roads? I note that there's been a great deal of talk, particularly on social media, about council's apparent failure to secure grant funding for the Brindabella Road. Can I just reassure the public that sometimes when you read these things, people take snippets of information and they use it to their advantage, because having sat in Minister Toole's office, those grants that they're referring to, the Minister was pretty explicit to us that the funding arrangements for those were centred around haulage routes or freight routes, which the Brindabella Road was never going to tick the box for. So we've obviously taken a strategic viewpoint that this is the Brindabella Road is going to be a federally led project on the background of our very strong advocacy, bringing together the state governments and the territory government in Canberra to make this happen, and that's something that is happening very strongly behind the scenes, and I want to reassure the public that that is the case. There isn't some hidden agenda here where the councillors and the staff have dropped the ball and we haven't accessed funding. Let me assure you that if there is an opportunity to get funding for a road or something that's of benefit to our community, then we follow it through. But we're not in the business of wasting everyone's time putting in applications for grants we know we can't get because we don't meet the criteria for.
Thank you, Councillor Larder. I will just add to that, we do have funding for the replacement of the Bomboli Creek Bridge and the approaches, so there's significant funding there, so we have been successful in some areas.
And that's part of the Brindabella Road?
That's part of the road.
So how many kilometres of the Brindabella Road?
That's 10.5 million for the bridge and
10.
planning.
Fantastic.
Exactly right.
10.5 for the 10.5 for the whole of the council area.
For the section that we've got funding
Yeah,
for.
that's
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah, excellent.
That's pretty good.
So, but certainly we'll be putting in Minister Toole as suggested we do put them in, so we will put them
We'll
in
put
the
it in.
future.
I think
even
that's a
if
great
they don't
idea.
comply.
Yep.
Thank you, councillors. Anything further on that? Put the motion, all in favour? That's unanimous. Pecuniary interest returns for councillors and designated staff update. So there's 3 recommendations there. Councillor Risselman, Councillor Benjamin. Anything further on that? Put the motion, all in favour? It's carried unanimously. Rate option study and road to sustainability project plan, 9.5. Councillor Ham, Councillor Benjamin. Councillor Ham.
Glad to see this has been brought up again and needs to be brought up regularly. This is about rate harmonisation that we've known is coming. I commend the amount of detail in this report and the fact that the consultant working on this is giving us options so you can see. And I'm pleased to see that there is going to be community consultation on this so that people can actually talk through the different scenarios. It is a really complex thing to do and to do fairly. And I think as councillors we all want it to be as fair as possible, the least amount of pain as possible, but we're just about to look at our quarterly budget review, and it's obvious that we do need to have rate harmonisation, and we do need to look at how much money is coming in to achieve what we want to achieve. I realise that we've also there is going to be rate changes over the next 2 or 3 years because we're going to have land values as well as rate harmonisation. And then in Tumut there's what's happening in Tumut? Something's special rate is dropping. So just that warning that over the next 3 years there will be changes.
Certainly. And look, and Councillor Pritchard will remember this, we went through this in 2004 when we took over part of Yarrawumla Council. That was given to us, we didn't really take it over, it was handed to us, and we had rate harmonisation there. So yeah, it's not something that's foreign to us, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
Councillor Wright.
And Chair, Mr Mayor, that if we want to continue our services in our communities, all our services and gardens and roads and everything else, we're going to have to be happy to pay for it. We don't have a choice. And costs are going up, and we've just got to accept that and do it.
So just to make a comment on the Yarralumla Shire, that the part that it took over, I was pushing for that at the time, and there was no benefit to this Shire because of very few ratepayers and a big obligation to maintain that area. But we did so there to get a common border with the ACT, and that's paying off now. We're part of the Canberra Joint Organisation, and it's giving a long-term economic boost.
Yeah, thank you. Just to clarify, this is just
Rate harmonisation.
this is just here. The 9.5 is to consult with the community. Okay, so that's what we're going out for, consultation of people, and it will generate a lot of discussion. I'm sure. Any further?
Yes, if I may. I think the work that's been done on this report and the incredible detail is immensely important for the transparency of what this rate harmonisation position is going to be, and the amount of detail we have and the research that's been put into this has just been spectacular, and our community has a lot of reading to do to understand what all those options are, and the options, there are 4 of them basically, and there will be a difference of opinion as to how those different options go, but it's an excellent start to having rate harmonisation met and dealt with in an appropriate manner.
Councillor Smith, anything further? I'll put the motion all in favour. It's carried, thank you. Unanimously. 9.6 QBR. There's 4 recommendations there. Councillor Larter. Councillor Benjamin. Councillor Larter. Happy to endorse. Any questions on the quarterly budget review? Councillor Ham?
Yes, I think it's been well publicised that the council has been given $1 million for bushfire relief from the federal government. I'm just wondering if that $1 million is in here.
I'll
Yes, it
refer
has
that to
been
the
included.
CFO. Yes.
Yes.
And is what that $1 million is? I mean, I'm sure it's been used appropriately, but what has it been used for?
Councillors, what we're doing at the moment is we have a number of accounts set up that all the costs in relation to the fires, the actual event around the fires and the recovery processes since have all been booked to. A number of those expenditures will be able to be reclaimed back under the Section 44 and also the DFRA funding into the future. But there's going to be a number of expenditure items there that were important for us to get stuff done for the community at the time that are going to be unfunded. It's likely that those items will come out of the $1 million up front, and we have just last week received a further 275,000, so it's 1.275 now. And then the remainder of the money, if there is any after that, then each of these subcommittees are creating an action list, and the action list has who's responsible for that, and if it is council that's responsible for it, it has a costing and a funding source. If there's no funding source, those subcommittees will...
Bushfire stuff, I mean, the cost alone on the rehabilitation of the Batlow cannery site, I mean, that $1 million is gone. I mean, if we just applied it to that one piece of infrastructure. And, you know, the likelihood is that we're not probably going to receive any benefit to contribute to that payment. So, you know, I think there just has to be a level of understanding out there that, you know, we've got this $1 million and people are saying, well, what are you doing with it? But, you know, we've got a bill for $1 million just to get rid of one pile of asbestos in one spot. So, you know, I think people have just got to, you know, just take more interest in what's actually happening around them, so that, you know, we don't get all these people just saying, well, geez, you know, the main street's looking a bit shabby, you know, it could do with a lick of paint. You know, we've got all these things ready to go. They're on the agenda. We've got the Director of Infrastructure, who's going to present a report to us on upgrading the Main Street insurance, but all those things, they're all things that we've had the budget for. And when you throw all these other things in from this unexpected event, and we don't have the means to pay for it, and we don't, the accommodation's another perfect example. We've suddenly got to provide accommodation for a number of people in back
4 years or so. I'm not.
Through the chair, we've got a draft tender just been in the final evaluation to go out at the moment.
Terrific. Thank you.
Anything further? Put the motion, all in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Hand. Statement of investments, 9.8. Councillor Wright. Councillor Benjamin. Councillor Wright.
No, I've nothing to talk.
Any other councillors? Any questions? Statements?
I suppose my only thing is, through the chair to Suzanne, is there's been a movement of $5 million out, and yet the main expenditures listed are about only 3.2. It seems a big, like at least $4 million unaccounted for. Is that just...
Through the chair, we only report on the main expenditures. That's not necessarily a reflection of the total of what we spend, just purely the biggest figures. So the rest has been spent in smaller bits. If you require us to report on that for the full 4.5 million, I will take that on
Councillor Hand might
note.
have some other questions later for you.
Yeah, I'll just talk to you. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything further? All in favour? Yes, that's unanimous. Statement of investments for January. So that last one was for December, this one's for January. Councillor Wright. Councillor Cross. Any more? Any other questions? Just by the way, I've been reading a little bit of social media that people are very kind to send through to me. Thank you very much for that. But I noticed that people think that just because there's the total cash and investments are quite large, and you see there that it's 44 million, that doesn't mean that it's money that you can just rush out and spend on things that you might like to. It means that a lot of it is tied up for staff leave and superannuation and water funds and the like. So a lot of it's in reserves that can't be touched. So it's not that simple.
I'd just like to ask one question, is that we've gone an extra 1 million or 1% into AMP. Why would we do that from last month to this month?
Through the chair, could you...
On the pie chart here, it's 16% from this month, and the last month it's 15%. So we're increasing in AMP or Mulva Roberts.
We might take that on notice.
Yeah, can I take that on?
Take that on notice. I think
insurance
Can you add it up? Does it make 100?
that's the opinions voiced here are the opinions of the Councillor Lada.
I was just going to ask about the T-Corp investments. There seems to be a fairly large difference in the interest rate in them. I think they must be the longer term and medium term funds. Was there a change there between December and January? Did it?
Super.
I thought it would have been fixed.
Depends on the terms that you take them out for, the length of time they come out for. So there is differences in their interest rates depending.
Yeah, but if they were fixed, wouldn't that be the same unless there's been a change? Like, I can understand the at-call one's changing, but why is the medium and the long-term one? So you've got a monthly interest rate of 3.12, or so are they variable, are they? Or?
Yeah, it depends on the time you take them out to what interest rate they're offering. So we have, as a whole, quite a lot with T-Corp, but it's done in smaller chunks as we go through. So it depends on what interest rate they were offering at the time.
So we review that monthly, do we?
As they become available.
So Chair, yes, as they become due, we review them and we get quotes every single time for the renewals, and we do not necessarily renew with the same bank or the same funding.
Yeah, so because in December it was negative. The monthly interest rate was negative 0.44, and then in one of them, and then in the January it was 1.92 and 3.12.
Another one on notice?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Anything further? Put the motion, all in favour? That's 9.9. That's carried unanimously. Takes us to 9.10, NCIF and SCF quarterly report, February 2020.
Council's just clarifying that that's the new council implementation fund and the Stronger Communities Fund. Shortening terms for that.
Do I have a move? Councillor Wright, thank you. Councillor Wright, do you have any comments or?
Do you want to go into committee?
Councillor Ham,
Will we be able to go into committee about this?
if you're moving that way,
Yes, please.
put
I'd
it
like
to
to
the,
move that way.
and we've got a seconder. Now, let's see if everybody agrees. All in favour? All in favour? Councillor Pritchard, are you voting in favour or against?
I'll vote against it.
Okay, so that's not unanimous, Councillor.
Too friendly and too unanimous today.
So, Councillor Ham, you've got your way.
Thank you. It's great to see all these projects done, as Councillor Wright alluded to, fabulous how many things are getting done. Just like to ask a few questions. One is about the Cancoban store. Everyone's been down to Cancoban and you drive in and that store is still sitting there empty. It looks dreadful. And I know that we've had expressions of interest. Through the chair, would it be okay if I ask Paul Holton what's happening with the Cancoban store?
Through the chair?
Yes.
As you're aware, two expressions of interest were received last year. This was advised to a previous council meeting. The intent of both of those submissions was to operate a supermarket.
Yes.
I can advise that one party, one of those who expressed interest, is no longer interested and has walked away from those discussions. However, one is continuing to express their interest, and negotiations are progressing. And the party involved has been informed that there is a need to resolve the issue in the shorter term rather than the longer term. I'm afraid I can't give you a specific date or time, but
so is the hold up on our side or on their side?
No, the negotiations from our point of view are progressing, and we have asked the tenderer to I guess speed or I guess move forward with their response to the negotiations and assist us in resolving the matter as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that would be great.
Could I ask through Mr. Holton, if there's anything in particular that you're aware of that might be a sticking point in those negotiations that council might be able to move on or do something about to assist the interested parties?
Through the chair, I would have to take that question on notice, and but I can assure you that the staff are doing everything they can to progress this as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Disselman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I might just ask the Batlow Cannery situation and the negotiations to get the contracting work underway, have we got a timeline for when that might be finished at this point in time?
I do notice that it's progressing fairly
Wonderfully
quickly,
well.
yes. But I might hand that over to the Executive Director of Infrastructure.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I'll bring a report to council next month on the detail in regard to the renegotiation of that contract, which will include timelines. The contractor is on site, is continuing with the demolition of the non-fire impacted sections of the cannery, or only, touched up sections.
That'd be interesting. I thought it was the whole
That's
cannery.
right, yeah. But obviously the work to demolish the areas that have been impacted by fire has significantly changed, and we're just finalising negotiations on that, knowing that there will be a variation to the existing contract.
So we don't have a timeline at the present moment.
Not at this stage.
But they are doing significant work, and it is
Yes,
going
and
along really well, and it's quite
Accelerated fast as we can. And I
Absolutely.
just don't want to give you a timeline until we've got the advice back from the contractor. Yep.
Thank you. And the other thing, if I may, I was delighted to see that our upgrade of the footpaths went right down past IGA, past the Ballet Bakery down to the RSL. I think that was a great achievement. So thank you very much to people who negotiated that and got that to achieve. I'm really pleased. And the other thing that I was going to ask was in reference to the Batlow Caravan Park. Do we know when those new units will be arriving for accommodation?
Yeah, I got advice today. The first two will be here on the 5th of March. So what's that, 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they'll come in lots of 2. First 2 will be here on the 5th
And when
of
will
March.
park be open for? Because not at the moment.
Yeah, we're working very quickly to try and get it open the next 2 to 3 weeks, recognising the need for accommodation.
Yeah, so have we put out to tender people to take that on, to actually manage it on our behalf?
We're in discussions at the moment with the organisation that's currently helping us out with Tumut.
All right.
For them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Councillor Pritchard, despite voting in the negative, you'd like to speak.
A little bit bigger and better,
Yeah.
and hopefully they will lodge an application for that. It's going to be a very simple process, and we'll be able to assist them with that.
Yeah, because there's a bit of urgency because it'll be here fairly soon.
Yes.
And they're doing a great job under a lot of pressure from the whole voluntary organisation.
Thank you.
And sorry, just one final question through the chair to Hines about the Gingelic walking track. It was supposed to be sealed. Is that going to be happening in the short term?
Through you, Mr Chair, very much intended to seal that. It's just a matter of securing the funding to do that. So as we work through the program over the next 4 months, if there's savings, we'll have a look at if we can attach those to that pathway and getting that sealed. Otherwise, we'll have a look at it as part of the budget.
Because there is some money left over.
Yeah, not
Not
enough.
much.
Unfortunately, yeah, we need to find a little bit more. If we can't get it in this financial year, we'll talk about allocating some money as part of the budget process for next year.
Thanks, Hines.
Anything further? Councillor
Through
Beck.
you, Mr Mayor, just a question on the Tumut Montreal Theatre new toilets that are getting built at the moment. Will they be public toilets open at all times for the community, or is it just for users of the actual theatre?
Through you, Mr Chair, it's my understanding that it's users for the theatre. There was discussions early on when the project was being scoped out about making it accessible to the public, but because we weren't able to progress the car park and that project, the toilets were then re-scoped out and delivered as part of Montreal, so it will just service Montreal.
And just another question. The Tumut CBD upgrade, do we have a time frame when we'll be starting after the report comes through?
Not at this stage. So we'll bring the report in regard to the tender process for the pavers to the March council meeting. At that time, I'll be able to provide some more information in regard to timelines. Still working through that and negotiating it at the moment.
Very good. Thank you.
Councillor Ismail.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just noticing a big compliment to the team, because those projects that have been completed have all come either on budget or below budget, and that's a big call in relation to the actual project management. And big congratulations to everyone for that. That's an excellent thing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Ismail. Councillor Smith.
In regards to the Cancoven pool shade sales, that's now complete, and it was noted by some members of the community that came in under budget, and a request was made that the balance of that budget might be used for thermal blanket for the pool in Cancoven to keep the water temperature up longer for later use in the summer.
Something that can be investigated.
Good segue, if I may, Mr Mayor. Councillors, the SCF and NICF funding was decided by the administrator. It had a scope. We're not allowed to vary that scope. So at the end of the day, once those projects are finished and we balance out the overs and unders, any savings there have to go to projects that were in the original scope for them that the administrator decided. We can't actually start new projects, and I would think that the likes of a pathway to the junction or a thermal blanket, if it wasn't in the original scope, won't be able to be funded under this program.
I noticed that some of the tableware or picnicware tables in our caravan parks is less than desirable. It's that treated pine material, and a lot of the planks are sort of sticking up and warped. And is it possible that we could look at some funding opportunities, or whether that the RRR grants or something could be used for the upgrades like at the pools?
Through the chair, certainly we can look at some options there for other funding sources for those items.
Councillors, I think we've exhausted that, have we? Councillor Ham?
Sorry, there is one thing sorry. The only one that it's gone over considerably is with the Yavin Creek and the roads, and it is a bit of a stretch, but through the chair, I'd just like to ask Heinz how this bushfire and how the pines being taken off so quickly, and what are the state of the roads, and what is your prediction, and how is the bushfire roads infrastructure-wise going to be affect us?
Through you, Mr Chair, we've got we're still finalising the surveillance and the assessment of damage to our infrastructure. I suppose an example of the sort of damage that we're dealing with is so far 3,000 guideposts need to be replaced, and we've just placed an order for that. Obviously roadside signage, guardrails, and be very familiar with all the work that's happening as far as trying to make the road safe with the removal of fire impacted trees.
So who pays?
The recovery is, because it's been declared a natural disaster, we can claim a lot of that back. Right. We can claim our initial emergency response 100%, and then we can claim back for infrastructure, essential infrastructure that's been damaged by the fires.
And was it all insured anyhow?
That sort of infrastructure is not insured.
Thank you. Anyone?
That's the last one, if I may, please. I'm just asking a question about the Wi-Fi update. That's going to be brought to us at some stage in the later report, I understand. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, we'll have the full project update on the workshop schedule for next month, and we'll bring further information regarding that one to that workshop.
Thank you.
Thank you. Someone moving?
Moving out of
Councillor Ham? Councillor Smith, all in favour? It's carried. Oh, thank you, Councillor. That's unanimous. 10.1, draft matters Blue Lake Green Algae. Blue Green Algae Management Policy feedback from public exhibit. Councillor Ham and Councillor Benton.
Just through the chair, I was just wondering if I can ask Heinz again. We've got the new agitators in, great, and suddenly we're up on red alert for blue-green algae. Is this a bad sign, or is it just starting, or what are your opinions on that?
Yeah, through you, Mr Chair, we're just about in the process of lifting the red alert at the moment. So the most recent monitoring results that have come in are showing that levels are low. So that's a good sign. I suppose there's a lot of contributing factors to algal blooms and how they occur and how long they stay in place for. So it'd be too early to say to know what impact the mix is having, but it's certainly in place, it's certainly operational, and there's a 2-year monitoring program that's going to run alongside the mixer to actually ascertain the effectiveness of it, which will help guide others who might have a similar situation.
mix as a way of managing it. So yeah, it'll be some time before we get an actual indication of how effective it is.
That's all right. Thank you.
And I'd expect with the fires, all that load going in there, it'll
Ash,
and it's going to make it even harder.
Smoke, light, all those things impact on the
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, it's got 4 recommendations there. Put them all in favour. Against? That's carried unanimously. Takes us to Riverina Regional Library Advisory Committee delegates. The current councillor delegate is Councillor Cross. The alternate delegate is
Councillor Usman.
Councillor Usman. All happy with that?
Yes.
You're moving that way?
Yes.
Yes. Do I have a second? Councillor Usman. Councillor Cross.
Last year there was a conference that I wasn't able to attend, but I noted that one of our library staff attended. As yet I haven't seen a report from that conference, and I would like to know why we haven't received a report from that conference that was last November.
I'm sure we'll get one. Thank you. Thanks for highlighting that.
And the
Councillor Usman?
May I just say, the question is also raised here as to why the delegate from council wasn't able to attend the conference and the council person was. I think that's not necessarily a good position for us to be in. I don't know why that decision was taken, but I don't think it was appropriate at the time.
It wasn't my understanding is that I wasn't informed that there was to be a conference.
Okay. We'll try and remedy that.
Just
thank you. Take that on notice.
Take that on notice, please.
Anything further? Put the motion all in favour? It's carried. Unanimous. 10.3. This is a 53 Carey Street 3-bay garage and a retaining wall. There's recommendations there from council, basically saying refusing to consent to the development application. Councillor Smith? Councillor Smith's moving it. Councillor Benjamin seconding. Councillor Smith, would you like to?
Yeah, from the very extensive report from council and the discussions that have happened and a lot of consideration has been given, it seems quite clear that it doesn't fall within the guidelines or the recommendations or the regulations for us to approve that development, and therefore I agree that it should be not be approved.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Lana?
Can I, Ms Mayor, just...
The Youth Council conference in 2021 in Tumut, which I think is a fabulous, great coup. However, we had a lot of discussion at the meeting about whether we should go ahead. The Youth Council were very concerned that because local businesses had been impacted by the bushfires, that they would not be in a position to sponsor the conference. They also felt, after a lot of discussion too, that because we were going to be highlighting what it's like to live in a natural environment, that a lot of our natural environment has been impacted. So that they really considered it very, very thoughtfully and very carefully. Goulburn Council had also gone to host this conference, and it was recommended that we approach Goulburn to host it, and that Goulburn would assist our young people to look at how conferences are organised. So it was a very difficult meeting because of the lack of sponsorship. But I'd also like to draw your attention, I think in one of the attachments we've got, there is a survey results from the year 9.
Sorry, through you, Mr Mayor. Are we able to get the, from memory, I remember some money from sponsorship wasn't actually paid for by a couple of local businesses, major sponsors. Are we able to get a report whether or not they've been paid? or not? Because it's a significant amount of money, and they were the major sponsors. Coles actually was hasn't paid yet, and I just thought.
Yeah, well, look, we'd probably talk about that later. Yeah, I think I'm not sure it should be discussed in open council. But certainly it's something for the committee to come to us with with something. Councillor Ham.
I am speaking as a member of the Tumberfest committee, but aware that Tumberfest has been fortunate enough to get $25,000 through this bushfire recovery fund, and I believe this is also going to go to the Festival of Leaf. Can I have that confirmed?
Through the chair, because of the short notice of a number of events, so there's been money given to Tumberfest, Rock the Turf and Cider Fest, and then the remainder of the funds are open for an application process. So I would imagine the Falling Leaf Festival may well apply for some funds.
Yeah, true. Okay.
Thank you. All right, we might leave this one. Oh, no, we won't. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Councillors, I've got a late report. Somewhere I have a late report. I have a late report. $10.4 Twickenham Road. Oh, thank you, Councillor Cross. Councillor Cross leaves the room. 10.4 Twickenham Rugby League Complex provision of raw water. There's 7 recommendations there. Do I have a mover? Councillor Larder and Councillor Isselman. Councillor Larder.
Oh, I think this makes perfect sense. You know, organisations like the Rugby League, doesn't matter whether it's Tumut, Tumurumba, Batlow, they're essential parts of our community. They're the lifeblood of our communities, these groups, and they do so much. And this particular organisation have been doers. They've done a lot of heavy lifting, and they provide council with a lot of in-kind support in so much as they look after their own grounds, and our council staff aren't down there maintaining them on the mowers and all that sort of stuff. So you know, I think given the fact that this is an elite sport, and it's one of the highlights of the regional calendar, and it draws a lot of tourism for us with the pub nines and all the associated benefits of that, and the local competition from week to week. I think the least we can do is make sure that this club has got the water supply to make sure that the ground is fit for purpose, and that there's not going to be an injury on there, because that's the real difficulty with not maintaining these grounds with proper water, that you end up causing an injury to a young player, and that they end up not going to work, and the impacts in regional communities of somebody not going to work are pretty horrendous. So.
Councillor Wright.
I'd like to say something too, because I agree with Councillor Larder about the amount of work those sporting communities do voluntarily. And the other thing is, if our grounds are beautiful and green and look really good, people from out in the flat country that come and play on those grounds say, look how good this place is. Maybe they might come and invest and live here as well. So it's a big tourism event for us as well. I can't help but support it. I think it's terrific.
The other practical point of view is, of course, it's a major evacuation area in case of fire, and it's in the whole community's interest that we keep that flatland area fireproof.
Yep, exactly.
Mr Mayor, I totally approve of this recommendation, and I think it's an important part of our support for the community. But I do recognise that there's been an approach to council to have untreated water for the oval in Batlow, and to also do so for the golf course. We're just going to table a notice of motion for next meeting that we investigate options to support these water supplies to our volunteer organisations who are maintaining these grounds, such as this one, Gym Golf Club and Bowling Club and so on. So just letting you know, we're tabling the motion.
Anything further?
Batlow.
Councillors, I've put the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Nothing further. Councillors, that concludes the council meeting. Thank you all for your attendance.